Hi, this is James Gordon here with the next book in the October Terror series. The book I'll be talking about today, Night Shift by Stephen King. And I love the die cut in this edition I got, which is part of the story, I Am the Doorway. That is really sick. Alright. This was first published by Doubleday in 1978. This edition is from Stegmed from February 1979. This is from the era of Stephen King that I like, his older era where he was dark, he didn't hold anything back, and he would write some pretty violent and gruesome stories. Some of the stories I didn't like in this collection. However, there are some that I definitely still enjoy after reading this collection again. I read this a long time ago. I read this when I was starting to get into Stephen King, so some of the stories do hold up well when I read them again, others not so much. I'll explain in my review which ones I liked and which ones I didn't like out of this collection. But overall, this is a decent, good collection by Stephen King, and I will definitely say if you're curious of checking out Stephen King and you're not sure what novels of his to check out because he's got so many of them, I recommend Night Shift is a good starting point, as you can read his short stories to see what Stephen King is like, and then after that, decide what novels you want to start with. Overall, this was still a fun collection. I still enjoyed it. I felt some stories could have been better, and when I was doing some research, most of these short stories were originally published in magazines, so that explains why they're so short, and I was thinking to myself, when King went to publish this collection, I kind of wish he went back and maybe added on to some of the stories to make them a little longer for the collection. If he did that, he would have made some of them a little better. But still, this is worth a read. All right, this has got how many short stories this has? Out of the short stories that I read, only 7 of them I like, and I will review the 7 short stories I liked, and spoiler alert, as I will give away crucial details within the stories, and I'll explain more my thoughts and opinions on this collection. Alright, onto the review. Midnight Shift. Hall, a drifter, has traveled across the state doing different jobs as he's never stayed in one place for too long unless it's winter. Working at a textile mill in the small town of Gate Falls, Maine, Hall hates working at the mills and dislikes his boss, Warwick, a mean and cruel man who only cares about money and little for his workers. Hall is planning on quitting after finishing his shift when Warwick calls him over. July 4th is coming up and the mill will be closed. However, the basement of the mill needs to be cleaned up and is offering extra money for this graveyard shift. Tight on cash, Hall accepts the offer. Hall, along with a few other workers, show up late at night and begin blasting hoses in the basement, cleaning up all the filth, while seeing rats in the basement as nobody has been down there for a long time. The hours are long and hard, along with nearly gagging from the awful smell. As they progress further in the basement, Hall and the other workers find mutant rats and other creatures that have been evolving and crossbreeding with other animals. Hall and the other workers are disgusted by this and refuse to work any further, demanding that Warwick brings in exterminators, but he refuses and threatens to fire them if they refuse to work. However, Hall blackmails Warwick. He'll expose him of his dirty secrets to the town hall if he fires them unless he increases their pay. Angered by this, Warwick agrees to Hall's deal. As they reach a sub-basement, they find the door is locked. Warwick wants Hall to open the door and go down, but they'll need an extra hand. Hall fears his boss will betray them if something happens, so he chooses Warwick and forces him to aid him. As they travel deeper, more rats are appearing. Suddenly, they find a legless and eyeless giant rat-bat hybrid that's been breeding these animals. Warwick attempts to escape, but Hall uses the hose, knocking him down as the queen rat hybrid flies towards him and kills him. Hall attempts to escape, but is overpowered by the rats as they devour his body. Meanwhile, the other workers haven't heard from them and plan to check the basement. They don't know the horror that awaits them. I Am the Doorway. Offer, the only survivor of a Saturn 60 mission to Venus, is recounting the events to his friend Richard while sitting outside on the beach next to the dunes. Offer, along with other astronauts, are chosen for the mission. Everything seems to be going fine until the crew members land on the surface of Venus and become infected with a virus which kills everyone but Arthur. He spends 2 years in Bethesda recovering from the events as he's disabled below the waist. NASA covers his injuries, giving him money along with a wheelchair. While in Miami to discuss a future space program, his hands suddenly begin itching to the point where it becomes unbearable. Returning to his beach house, Arthur is horrified by seeing eyes appearing on his hands. Not only can he feel them moving around, but also feels being watched. At first, he attempts to poke them out with a sharp pencil. The pain is terrible with the eyes looking at him angrily. He doesn't poke out the rest, covering these eyes with wrapping bandages, but they itch badly and feels something is controlling him, which leads to him murdering a boy as the eyes open up a doorway, allowing aliens to take the boy. Richard doesn't believe Arthur's story, thinking he's gone insane. He angrily removes the bandages, revealing the eyes, but warns him to run if he suddenly feels the aliens controlling him. Richard is shocked by what he sees, and it isn't long till the aliens begin controlling him again. He yells at Richard to run, but it's too late as a portal opens, taking him. Arthur waits till the eyes are sleeping before covering his hands in kerosene, then burns them over an open fire and nearly dies from this while screaming in agony. 7 years later, Arthur has recovered from the burning, with his hands now replaced with hooks. He has learned to use them, but has been worried seeing more rockets going into space and fears the doorway isn't closed yet. When Arthur begins feeling the same itch along with more pain, he finds an eyeball in his chest. To ensure the doorway is forever closed, Arthur kills himself with a shotgun. The Mangler. John Hunton, a police detective, arrives at Blue Ribbon Laundry to a grisly accident. When he steps in, he is shocked by the remains of Adele Farley body as she was pulled into the Hallie Watson Model 6 Speed Iron and Folder, or as everyone else in the industrial laundry dubbed it, the Mangler. And seeing it still running with its rollers still covered in blood gives him the chills. He writes in his report of what happened, but is puzzled how the machine kept running when another worker tried to shut it off. Hunton leaves after getting his report, believing the machine will be shut down for good, but is shocked to hear after a board of inspectors looked it over, they believe it was a human error that led to the accident, not the machine's fault. A series of accidents begins happening at the laundry plant, with one worker nearly getting sucked into the machine, but is saved after another worker cuts off his arm with an axe. Hunton finds out these deaths begin happening after Sherry Alette cut her finger on the machine and she hasn't had sex. Believing the Mangler is possessed, he gets his English professor Jackson, with an interest in voodoo, plan to perform an exorcism on the Mangler. Using a spare key he got from a worker, Hunton and Jackson sneak inside the laundry plant and begin the exorcism. At first they believe it's working, but to their horror, the Mangler breaks free, revealing itself as a mechanical demon that kills Jackson. Hunton flees and returns home as he calls his boss, trying to warn him about the Mangler as they must destroy it, but drops the phone when he hears it coming for him. Battleground. Returning to his penthouse in Miami, John Renshaw, a skilled and deadly hitman working for the organization, he has completed a contract on Hans Morris, owner of a toy company. As he's about to step towards the elevator, the lady at the front desk tells him there's a package for him. John picks up the package as it has his name, address, and has been here for 5 days. However, on the return address, it reads, "Best from your #1 girl, Mom." John takes the package to his penthouse as he enjoys seeing the sun shine through with the nice view of Miami. John first thinks the package is a bomb, but feels something moving inside. Carefully cutting the wrapping off, he finds a green military locker with a note that reads, "G.I. Joe Vietnam Foot Locker." Also on the note are a list of toys on it. The locker begins shaking violently, causing John to drop it as it opens. He is shocked to see toy soldiers crawling out of the box along with jeeps and 2 helicopters. When they notice him, they aim their weapons at him. John suddenly hears loud popping noises, followed by a sharp stinging pains. John quickly throws a pillow over them and reaches for his .44 Magnum and shoots down a helicopter, causing it to explode. Then he is hit by a bazooka, feeling a burning pain in his leg, followed by a sharp poke at his toe with a toy soldier stabbing his shoe with a bayonet. John kicks the toy soldiers while shooting at them as he runs to the bathroom as a second helicopter nearly shoots out his eyes. patching up his wounds as he's trying to figure out how to take out the rest of the toy soldiers as he's low on ammo. Then John sees a note being slid under the door. He picks it up and reads surrender. John chuckles, taking out a bottle of lighter fluid along with a pencil, and tells them off as he slides the note under the door. Suddenly the door is nearly blown off by a rocket launcher. John escapes through the bathroom window and carefully walks along the ledge, reaching the outside deck. He lights the bottle of lighter fluid and throws it at the footlocker where the rest of the toy soldiers are stationed at. Suddenly, a bright flash lights up the penthouse, followed by a powerful explosion, killing John and all the toy soldiers. As people saw what they're doing, looking up at the fire with bloody pieces of John's clothing, a note falls to the ground which reveals a bonus of more weapons along with a scale model of a phenometer nuclear weapon. Trucks. A sudden event has caused semi-trucks and other large vehicles to gain life and begin going on a killing spree against humans. While cars aren't affected by this, however, any semi-truck, bus, or large vehicle destroys it to prevent humans from escaping. The narrator and 5 other people are trapped inside a truck stop diner with semi-trucks, a Greyhound bus, and other large vehicles driving around in a circle. Anyone who attempts to escape is ran over. A trucker is trying to call out for help on a radio, but only gets static. Things get bad when more trucks join the force of machines, followed by the power going out in the diner, forcing the survivors to get fresh water from the bathrooms. The main character is nearly ran over by a truck as he and a kid, Jerry, barely make it back alive. The following morning, the trucks have stopped moving as they believe they are low on gas. Then one of them begins blowing its horn. Jerry recognizes it as Morse code as the trucks demand the humans refuel them or else. They refuse as a bulldozer attacks the diner. The main character and Jerry make Molotov cocktails and fight back, destroying the bulldozer and a truck, but Jerry and a trucker are killed. Everyone else gives up and refuels the trucks as they keep the humans prisoners. After a long day, the main character is exhausted and is resting. He has a dream of machines forcing humans to plow the roads and build bigger, meaner, and deadlier machines to hunt down people. He then sees 2 planes flying by. He wishes there were people inside but knows there aren't any. The ledge. On the 34th floor in Mr. Kressner's penthouse is Stan Norris, a tennis player, who's been secretly having an affair with Kressner's wife, Marcia. Norris has planned to run away with Marcia and escape the clutches of her cruel husband. However, Kressner is a powerful criminal, and using his connections, he was able to track down Marcia. He calls Norris to visit him at his penthouse. Once there, Kressner reveals what he knows what Marcia and Norris have been up to, as his men followed his wife closely, along with snapping pictures of them having sex at a cheap motel. Kressner also reveals he doesn't love his wife and is willing to give her to Norris along with $20,000. However, should he refuse, Kressner will inform the police his car has a stash of heroin, framing him, and will do everything in his power to ensure he never sees Marcia again. But if he accepts his wager, he'll grant Norris his prize. Knowing he has no choice, Norris accepts as Kressner brings him over to his balcony. He challenges Norris to carefully move around the penthouse ledge as it's 5 inches wide. If Norris can make it back to the balcony safely, he will be given the money, Marcia, and remove the drugs in his car. Norris steps outside as it's very windy and cold. He carefully climbs over the iron bars and begins slowly moving around the ledge as he hugs the wall, feeling the powerful breeze against him as he looks down to see the city streets below him, knowing if he makes one mistake, it's all over. Halfway across the penthouse ledge, when a group of pigeons nearly make him lose his footing as they peck at his legs. As Norris makes it back to the balcony and inside the penthouse, Kressner congratulates Norris, but reveals he didn't keep fully true to his promise as he's already killed Marcia, as he won't allow another man to have her, and plans to murder Norris, keeping the money to himself. Enraged, Norris grabs the money bag and smacks out the guard's gun, then quickly grabs it and pistol whips Tony across the face. Cessnar attempts to escape, but Norris holds him at gunpoint. Cessnar begs him not to shoot him as he'll pay him anything he wants. Norris makes a wager that if he can go around his penthouse ledge, he'll spare him. Kressner refuses as Norris cocks the .45 automatic pistol, and Cessnar walks towards the balcony and onto the ledge. A few moments later, Norris hears a scream, but just to be sure, he waits to see if Cessnar will make it back alive. If he does, Norris will kill him to avenge the death of Marcia. The Lawnmower Man. Harold Parkett used to keep his back lawn cut every summer. He had a good lawnmower and paid a kid a few houses down to cut the grass. Harold would enjoy watching the kid cut his lawn while drinking beer and listening to the Red Sox game. But after an accident happened when a neighbor's dog was chasing after a cat, it ran right in front of the lawnmower, causing it to be torn to shreds, which caused Harold's daughter to puke while giving his wife nightmares. Harold ended up selling the lawnmower and has been putting off cutting the grass. It's a hot summer in July and the lawn is getting worse. Getting tired of the neighbors poking fun at him along with his wife complaining, Harold searches for a person to cut his lawn and finds an ad in the paper. Harold calls the number and asks for the lawn service, and they'll send someone to cut his grass. He awakens in his chair after hearing the doorbell ring, causing him to spill his beer. When Harold opens the door, he finds an overweight man wearing overalls, a baseball cap, and a toothpick sticking out of his mouth. Behind him, Harold sees a large and powerful lawnmower as it looks more like a monster. The lawnmower man talks funny, but thanks him for all the grass to cut. As the lawnmower starts up, Harold is shocked to see the lawnmower man remove his clothing and follows the lawnmower on all fours. The mower cuts the grass as he eats it. Suddenly, Harold spots a mole and tries to warn the lawnmower man, but to his horror, he watches it run over the mole, ripping it apart as blood and guts splatter on the grass. Harold vomits all over the flower bed and passes out. He awakens to see the lawnmower man standing in front of him, still naked with grass covering his body, along with having hooves for feet. The lawnmower man explains that his boss, Pan, grants supplemental benefits and makes sacrificial victims to customers who cannot appreciate the progress, and warns him not to tell anyone about it if he wants to have the best lawn service. Harold says nothing as the lawnmower man returns cutting the grass. Harold attempts to call the police when suddenly the lawnmower crashes through the door. The lawnmower man tells him he broke a rule and he must have to pay for it. The lawnmower chases Harold through the house while destroying anything in its path. As Harold runs out into the backyard, he turns back to see the grill of the lawnmower fall by its spinning blades as he screams in horror. The police arrive only to find Harold's bloody remains in a bird bath. With only a few leads to go on, the police chief believes a sex-crazed killer did it. However, he comments how nice the fresh lawn smells. Night Shift was a decent collection of short horror stories by Stephen King. While I felt some were better than others, the rest I either didn't like them or felt they could have been better. For the stories I enjoyed, they were well written, very creative, and had their scary and gory moments. For what I like best with these short stories is how dark and brutal they are. King doesn't hold anything back when having characters being murdered or terrified within the pages of each story. However, I felt some stories I liked trucks were too short and wish it could have been a little longer. For anyone who hasn't read Stephen King before, this would be a good starting point with short fiction before choosing one of his many novels he has written. Overall, Night Shift is a good collection of short horror stories from an era of Stephen King I like best. And that's the review today. Hope you enjoyed. Yeah, I had fun reading this collection, Night Shift, again. I'll just start with the stories that I like, the 7 stories I like best. Graveyard Shift was a really good one. I saw the movie the same name and it was terrible. The short story is a lot better. I love the scenes where these workers are just progressing further and deeper in this like filthy basement, and they're seeing these like mutant like rat and other rodent hybrids and stuff, and then they see the queen, which is like this cow-sized legless, eyeless bat rat hybrid that can fly. And the scene where it attacks Warlock is really cool. Like, it wraps its tail around him and then just starts biting into him. That scene I really enjoyed. And of course, Hal being devoured by the rats was awesome. I really enjoyed that scene. I'm the Dory was a really cool story. It's one of the very few Stephen King stories where he blends science fiction with horror. And this was a really interesting story. Like, the guy basically gets infected with some alien virus, and he's got like eyes that they're on his hands, and basically these eyes allow these aliens to see into Arthur's world, and they take control of him and stuff. And basically basically aliens use like Arthur as like a it's like basically they take control of him basically if they want so, and they basically make him attack anyone, and then opens a portal for the aliens to take. I thought that was a really cool story. Um, the Mangler was another one I enjoyed. I felt this one was too short, and I wish it was a little longer. I wish it had more scenes of like people getting sucked into the machine and basically being crushed to death. I wish it had more scenes of that. And when it got towards the end and it reveals this machine's like a mechanical demon, I actually was visualizing like a H.R. Giger like biomechanical painting, like because he does like paintings of like humans and machines fusing together, and I was thinking to myself, how cool would it be if H.R. Giger did collaborate on a film project, The Mangler. He did like one of his like airbrush paintings of the Mangler, How cool would that look? If only we could have like him like do it like an illustration of the Mangler. I'd love to see what H.R. Giger's illustration would look like of this like demon machine. I can imagine it'd be really cool. Okay, let's see. Battleground is one of my favorites. I really like this story. I think it's one of like King's creative ones where basically a hitman is basically comes back to his penthouse after completing a job, gets the mysterious package, opens up, and it's these toys that come to life and try killing him. I really like that story. It was made to a really good adaptation on the Nightmares and Dreamscapes TV series, which they actually took the story from this Night Shift and put it into that one because it's not part of the Nightmares and Dreamscapes collection. But it's still one of my favorite episodes of that TV series, and it's just really cool how they do it. They did make some changes with the short story, but I felt they kind of improved it over this one, but still entertaining. Trucks is another good one. This one kind of just throws you right into it. There's no like big like opening part. It basically just throws you right into the action right away. So you don't know how the main character basically explains he was driving. The main character explains he was out driving when a truck ran his car off the road. He ran towards the diner and is now trapped in with these other survivors as these like semi trucks, a Greyhound bus, and a bunch of other large vehicles are now keeping the humans prisoner while in this truck stop. And this was a good story. Again, I felt it was too short. I wish it was longer. It would have been interesting to see more characters in the story and more machines and other stuff. However, Trucks was made into the excellent film Max Overdrive, which is one of my favorite Stephen films, so it was made to an excellent film. So, the movie, to me, improves the story a lot. Just a lot more to offer to the viewers and stuff. Just more chaos and mayhem and people being killed by machines. It's always fun to watch. All right, let's see. The Ledge was an interesting story. This is more kind of like I would say like psychological thriller horror story where basically this average guy is being forced to do something against his will by a criminal like boss, and if he refuses, he'll frame him for a crime he didn't commit and basically force him to go along the ledge on the penthouse. And if he makes it back alive, he promises to give him like money and his wife, but of course is going to stab him in the back anyway. This was a really good dark story. I really enjoyed this. I've never seen a clip of this in that one Stephen King anthology movie I really didn't like, Cat's Eye, where they incorporated that and the Queers Corporation, which I'll get to later. But I really didn't care for the movie. I liked the short story though. I felt it was really good. Absolutely terrifying just to imagine the person having to walk along this ledge and basically these like howling winds are blowing against him, and basically if he loses his footing or the wind blows him off or one mistake, he falls like from a very long way to hitting the pavement. So I like when King is describing the character is like he's looking down and he gets kind of a bit of like vertigo of how high he's up, and I could just feel what this character was going through. I'm not afraid of heights myself, but if I'm up somewhere high and I don't feel safe, then I start getting nervous. So I can imagine what the character was going through when up on the ledge. And then the last story I liked was The Lawnmower Man. This was a really fun story. I remember my dad saying he didn't like this story, and the first time I read it, I thought it was okay. And then the second time I read it, I really enjoyed it. It's just, to me, a fun story. It's basically a guy is put off cutting his lawn because of an accident and is getting tired of the neighbors poking fun of his uncut grass. So he hires a lawn service to cut his lawn. And this is before the days you can look up like reviews like on companies and stuff before hiring them and stuff. And then when this person shows up, it's clearly not what he expected. However, he's got like this very souped up, powerful, frightening looking lawnmower that can cut the lawn. So he's like, okay, as long as he can cut the lawn and charges like a fair deal, then this should be fine. However, Harold gets more than he bargains for when the guy basically is acting strange and weird. And it's like, I found it a little humorous where he like basically the lawnmower man gets naked and basically is like, it's like falling the lawnmower on all fours while eating the grass, and Harold is just shocked what he's seen, and then the lawnmower kills him a mole, which causes him to vomit in the flower bed, which had me laughing. It made me laugh a bit. And then my favorite scene is when he tries calling the cops, and the lawnmower crashes through the door, chases after him, and then he's greeted by the lawnmower blades where he attempts to escape outside. I really enjoyed that scene. And as for the film of the same name, I really enjoyed the film. While the film is more of a science fiction cyberpunk story than a horror story, it's more story driven with really well developed characters and a lot of like themes and subjects the film talks about. Overall, I like the movie. I know King hates it, but I don't really care what he thinks. To me, I think the movie is good on its own. Both the story and film, they're both good on their own. And the film has like two good actors. You got Jeff Fahey and Pierce Brosnan, who deliver really good performances in this movie, and it's well shot. The acting is good. I know this is one thing I hate reading some reviews on like older films. People trashing the films, like trying to find things to like pick at and like tear them apart. And a lot of times people comment on the CGI, saying how bad it looks and stuff. Well, here's the thing. This movie came out in '92, and the CGI cost $500,000 back then. That's a lot of money back then, and CGI isn't what it is now today. CGI back in the 90s was totally different than it is now. And I think people are just too hard on this film. They're expecting it to be more like a horror film. As I said, to me, it's more of a science fiction cyberpunk story, and it's more story driven. So overall, I still enjoyed the movie for what it is. It still has the part from the short story where this abusive father gets chased by a lawnmower and gets grieved with lawnmower blades. I enjoy that scene a lot. That's one of my favorite scenes of the movie. So those are the 7 stories that I enjoyed. The stories I did not like were Jerusalem's Lot, which is supposed to be like a prequel to Salem's Lot, which I'll have to read sometime in November. This is supposed to be like a prequel story, and basically the town Jerusalem's Lot is already there, but it's been abandoned after some like kind of like devil worship event caused the town to be deserted. I tried to get into this one. It's told mostly through like diary entries and letters. I just didn't like it. Night Surf was another one. I didn't enjoy that one. It was like basically a bunch of like teenagers are on the beach, and one of them gets infected with some virus, and then they treat each other like shit throughout the story, so I didn't enjoy that one. The Boogeyman I actually thought was going to be good, but I was like, okay, what is this one about again? And basically this one is about this father is talking to a psychiatrist, and he claims that someone has killed like 3 of his children along with his wife, and the police believe he's the murderer, but he's trying to prove his innocence. And I was like, okay, this is a really strange story. And then it has this like twist ending, and it was like, it made me think one of those giallo films where you think it's gonna go one way, but then it has this twist ending you don't see coming, and sometimes it's like, what? So I didn't like that one. Gray Matter, I didn't like that one. I actually thought it was about an alien invasion during like a winter snowstorm, but it turned out it's like some guy gets infected with some fungus like parasite, and I just didn't like the way King wrote that one. Sometimes They Come Back. That one was okay. It was like, it's basically about a teacher that's being haunted by the ghosts of a bunch of like greasers that terrorized him and killed his brother back in the 50s, and they're basically coming back to finish him off. It was okay. Like, I felt it could have been better. I just kind of felt it was weird how one of them is like in his class, and he's not supposed to be there, and everyone acknowledges that, oh, this student in class, yeah, he's been causing trouble. It's like, this guy is dead. Don't any of you people know this? So I didn't really, that one I felt it could have been better. And then some of the other ones I didn't remember, like Strawberry Spring. I didn't remember this story, what it was about, and I'm reading this, and I'm like, what is this story? What is this? And I was like reading it. It's like basically a guy who was basically, he remembers these murders that are taking place on this college, and the killer was called the Spring Hill Jack, and then he finds out he's the killer, but he has no recollection of what he's done. I didn't like that one. Quarters Corporation, this is a story I could not get into. This kind of felt more like a satire than like a horror story or a psychological thriller. It just felt more like a satire, but basically about a guy that's trying to quit smoking, and he tries this tries this company that his friend suggested, and basically the guy basically incorporates like mob enforcer tactics on his family, which leads to like the brutal beating of his son, his wife getting kidnapped, electrocuted, and her finger getting cut off, and I just couldn't get into the story. I just really didn't like it. I Know What You Need. This one I didn't like either. Basically, this creep follows and pesters this cute girl, basically can read her mind and knows exactly what he wants, and he won't leave her alone until she accepts him, and I didn't like that one. Children of the Corn, this was a story that I thought was going to be good, but I really didn't like it. I could not stand the two main characters. Just like the book starts off with them arguing that they're lost and they can't find where they're going, and they get lost, and then they come to this town, it's deserted, and then they're arguing what to do, and a bunch of other shit happens. I'm like, I can't stand these two. I just want them to get killed off at this point, and this took, to me, I felt the story took too long for like the horror to happen, and when it finally does, I was like, I just really didn't like the characters, and I thought the idea of basically a bunch of like kids revolt against the adults, now they take over this town. I thought that's a cool idea, but I did not like the short story at all. I felt the '84 film The Same is a lot better. It's definitely a lot better than the short story. I still felt the film could have explained some things better and stuff, like what is this like god or whatever the children worship and stuff, and the film it's like it couldn't decide what it should be. However, I heard the later film in the series are really good, so I'm planning to check out those later Children of the Corn film series. Just like the first like 4 or 5. And then the last stories, The Last Run on the Ladder, The Man Who Loved Flowers, One for the Road, and The Woman in the Room. I didn't like these stories at all. So out of all these stories, the 7 that I review are the ones I like best. And yeah, like Night Shift is a good decent collection of short stories by Stephen King. Definitely in the era of King that I like, when his stories were dark, brutal. He didn't hold anything back, and he wasn't afraid to get shocking, dark, or violent in his stories. As I feel today, he doesn't go for that anymore, which is a real shame, because back in the day he could write some really good stories. Yeah, so if you want to check out, like, if you haven't read Stephen King or you're interested in short fiction, I recommend Night Shift as a good starting point, and I definitely will have to read Skeleton Crew and his art collections of short stories, as I got a bunch of those to read and review on the channel. Alright, that's a review today. I hope you enjoyed. Sorry this took a little longer than expected. I got a bit of a cold, so that's why this review was delayed a bit, but I am been reading a lot more. I got my next novel picked out, and I got a horror manga that I'm actually really enjoying, so I'm going to read as much as I can later today to have more reviews up as soon as possible, as this month is almost over, and I want to cram in as many horror reviews as I can before October is over. However, I decided I'm still hungering for more horror, so I'm going to read definitely more of it, more horror throughout November and December, so I'm going to read more horror books to get on this channel. Alright. If you enjoyed this review, please like it, share it, and please don't forget to subscribe to October Library, the YouTube channel, and the Facebook group of the same name. Please support your review of fiction. Until then, I'll catch you later.